So in a society that doesn't like marriage, how do you fight for your marriage? Because there's nothing in society, if you're married, nothing in society is encouraging you to stay married. Everything around you is encouraging you to walk out. So how do you fight for your marriage? Well, as I said, Kay and I have been married 39 years, so I thought I'd ask her to come and help us. Would you give a warm welcome to my best friend? Now, we know that life is seasonal. You go through different seasons, you go through them over and over and over. So, talk to us, babe, about the seasons of marriage. And let's just share with them, we've gone through a lot of seasons, ups and downs, good times, bad times, a lot of pain, a lot of joy. And I want to spare some people some pain.
Yeah. Well, we want to use the metaphor of seasons to talk about marriage because, as Rick said, marriage doesn't stay the same; it changes.
Yeah.
And so we're going to use spring to represent the time when maybe your marriage is super busy. You're both like, you're like ships passing in the night. It's just a super intense time of busyness. We're going to use summer to talk about, it's the good stage. It's gravy. I mean, everything is going well. Fall, we're going to use to talk about when there's change. Going on, and then winter when, the bottom falls out, when everything kind of falls apart. When we had premarital counseling before we got married, we were told that we were going to struggle in 5 areas: communication, sex, in-laws, parenting, and money. And we were 5 for 5 on our honeymoon.
On the honeymoon, did you hear that?
Yeah, it was a, let's just say it was an inauspicious beginning.
We've been married 39 years. I say 36 great years.
35 maybe. Give or take a few months.
Yeah, maybe a few, yeah.
So we really did want to just talk to you about the seasons that we've gone through in these years that every relationship is going to go through. So spring is the season of busyness.
Yeah.
And
well, busyness, I actually think that busyness is the #1 destroyer of marriages. We get too busy for each other. You don't have time to talk, you don't have time to think, you don't have time for sex, you don't have time to just be together because you're so busy going around in different places.
I think what happens where it gets messy is that there's always periods of time that are super busy, and we trick ourselves into thinking, oh, this is only going to last for a short time.
Right.
In 3 months, this is going to ease up. Our schedules are going to be different. Things are going to look different than they are right now. If we can just hang on for this amount of time, we won't be as busy. The problem is that those kinds of seasons turn into patterns.
Yeah.
And before you
Lifestyles.
know it, it's a lifestyle. It's a pattern. It's a habit of living an incredibly busy life when you don't have time for the people and the person that means the most to you.
So there's a couple things that we've done, and these would be good tips or suggestions for when you're in the spring of life, when you're really, really busy. And by the way, when you have preschoolers, that's the ultimate spring because you're super, super busy. One of them is make time for fun. One of the phrases Kay and I have had for like 39 years is divert daily, withdraw weekly, and abandon annually. Divert daily means every day you do something fun. Find something fun to do, okay? Second is withdraw weekly. Take a weekly day off and then abandon annually, have an annual vacation. Talk about our day off.
Well, yeah, our day off, obviously when he's preaching, weekends are not fun. Well, they're fun. He likes his job, but it's not a time of relaxation. It's work for him.
Yeah.
So then by Mondays, he's wiped out. It has been for all the years that he's been a pastor here. So Mondays became our regular day off. So even no matter how busy we are, we've made sure we took a day off. And then we always take a vacation. Sometimes you can say, well, if you're married and you think, how long has it been since we've taken a vacation? Couples can get in a rut to where either finances get in the way or literally the schedule. There just isn't time to carve out a vacation. And we've been intentional about that, even if it was a staycation. Maybe money has been tight at different times. Even if you just stay home and watch Netflix and, eat cereal and milk. Whatever. It's just the intentionality of planning a time.
Yeah.
And I would say that's probably the most...
Intentionality, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's intentional in busy seasons, in that spring, of just looking for ways. It's like turn off the phone, turn off the computer, look at each other's eyes. It may not be the 2 hours like it was when you were dating, but, at least take that
Sit
time
close.
to intentionally
connect.
focus and connect with each other.
Well, you know, you have to make time in dating. You make time to go on dates. When you get married, you need to date your mate. The problem is, a lot of people stop dating once they get married. You need to continue. What you did to get married is what you must continue to do the rest of your life to stay married. I say it like this: if there were more courting in marriage, then there'd be fewer marriages in court. And so date your mate and do fun things and do creative things and just have fun together.
The second season that we've observed in our relationship and talking to thousands of couples through all these years is summer. And that would be, I mean, summer, doesn't everybody love summer? It represents, man, things are great. Everybody looks forward all year to summer season. So there are times and periods in your relationship in which really everything is going great. You know, your health is good, maybe you've got enough money, you're not struggling with finances, you're getting along great, and it just feels like summer is this easy breezy time. The unfortunate thing is, as we've discovered, is that those periods of time seem to be very small.
Yeah, they don't last very long.
They don't
Summer's
last
not
very
as long
long.
a season
Yeah,
as some of the
there's
others.
always something that interrupts that. But when you're in one of those seasons of that just kind of easy breezy time, we say that's the time to invest in your relationship.
Right,
that's the
listen to
time
this.
to plant. That's the time to like store up against.
Bank it.
Would you like to talk?
I like to interrupt. You're watching our marriage in action right here.
This is an ongoing problem, young man. And then I forget what I'm saying.
Bank the relationships.
Yes.
Bank the good times.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I'm trying. Is to don't wait for the wheels to fall off the bus before you decide to get help. I mean, so funny.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, so his idea of car maintenance is when the engine falls out on the toll road, that's the time to have the car checked. But that's the way people approach their relationships and marriage sometimes. It's like, well, when things get, right now, okay, that's kind of bad, but you know, maybe it'll get better, or yeah, that kind of is annoying, but you know, so instead of waiting till things get horrendous in this good season of marriage, go ahead and invest in like some marriage counseling, some marriage seminars, some books. Now you can talk.
Well, let me say that about Thank you, a great one. I really like what Kay just said about when things are going good, that's the time to do the maintenance, to do the marriage tune-up, get marriage counseling while it's good. As a pastor who used to do marriage counseling, I can't tell you how many guys who've come to me who their wife for years begged them to get marriage counseling. And they said, no, I'm not going, I'm not going, I'm not going. And then their wife walked out the door and all of a sudden they're all ears and goes, I'm ready for counseling. Sorry, buddy, it's too late. You waited too late. You get counseling before you need it, in the good times.
And then fall is a season of change. And two ways we want to talk about change. Change when they're good changes, and then change when it's not so good. So change when it's good is maybe you've moved. You know, there's a major move. Maybe there's a new baby. Maybe you've just gotten married. Maybe you've taken on a new job. So there's this major life changes, and it requires such adjustment. And that can create a lot of stress, but yet it's really good. Sometimes we fight against change because it disrupts our lives, and yet if we can look at it through the lens of, okay, this may be difficult right now, but in the long run, I am going to be so glad that we made this move, or we took that job, or we made that decision to buy that house instead of this. All of that change can actually be really good for you, and so I would just tell you, in those seasons of change, be willing to adjust. Don't be too stressed about it. Just be willing to adjust.
Tell them about our 5-second rule.
Yeah, well, we have this rule that I would say has revolutionized our communication, and it is love this idea for 5 seconds. You know, one of us will propose an idea about something that we think might change, or just something that we think is a great idea, but to just preface it with saying, just love this idea for 5 seconds. Because in that 5 seconds, you know, while you might, if you don't preface it that way, there could be this, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Or no,
start giving you all the reasons why it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. But if you have to pause in those 5 seconds and really just hear what the other person is saying, you may find that what they're suggesting this could be a really good thing.
And
after
actually
all.
change, if your marriage is gonna last like 39 years, you're gonna go through enormous amounts of change. We're not the same people we were when we got married. And you're not gonna be, if you stay with the same person for life, you grow. And you don't stay the same. So your marriage will succeed or fail by your ability to learn how to deal with change. And to realize that change can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing, but it can be a good thing and it can keep you from boredom. But let's talk about, what about the kind of change, the things that don't change in life, like your personality? That's not gonna change. How do you deal with those things? Well, there are 3 or 4 suggestions. Let me give them to you. One of them is, stop using incompatibility as an excuse. People say, well, we're just incompatible, so we're gonna divorce. I don't even believe in that term. I think the word incompatibility is a word made up by divorce attorneys to justify divorce. The truth is, you're not compatible with anybody. You will never meet anybody that you are compatible with, because nobody agrees with everything you do. So no matter who you're married, you're incompatible. There's another word for incompatibility: selfishness. And when people say we're incompatible, I have 2 words for you: grow up. Because given the right situation, if you choose to love, you can fall in love with anybody and stay in love with anybody. Now, that's another thing that's important, is to realize that love is a choice. And that it's, people think love is a feeling. Love is not a feeling. Love is a choice. Love creates feelings. Love creates great feelings. Baby, oh baby, oh baby. Great feelings. Love creates feelings.
Do you know how silly that sounds?
Yeah. You got to decide whether you're going to love somebody in spite of themselves. Because there are things when you get married about your mate that are never going to change, no matter how much. And you got to decide, am I going to force them to change before I love them? That's not real love. You have to accept things that are real when you're not always dealing with the ideal. And a great marriage, and can I have a great marriage, is the union of 2 great forgivers. A great marriage is the union of 2 great forgivers. That's how you have a great marriage.
We've decided that we're gonna be happily incompatible
Yeah.
for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
We will never be completely compatible. We are just too different.
opposite.
Too different. But we are really content to be
Here's an
happily incompatible.
Every couple has a song, and ours is a song from the 80s, I guess it is. I don't remember.
A long time ago.
I don't know. See, Huey Lewis and News is called "Happy to Be Stuck with You," and in that song, it says, we thought about giving up, and we went through all these tough times, but he goes, we got the same address, we might as well just hang out together.
Yeah.
Same phone,
Same phone number,
friends.
same address, you might as well stay.
So we're
yeah,
happy
so we're
to
happy to be stuck together. It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, so spring, busy, be intentional. Summer, bank for the future. Fall, if there's good changes, learn to adjust and look for the positives in it. When you run into the places where there's not gonna be a change, then that's an opportunity to grow in acceptance and in deciding that you're going to be happily incompatible. And then there's the season of winter. And if you are if you're married for any length of time, you're going to go through winter, and that's a season of loss. That's a season of loss and grief. It could be anywhere from an affair that happens in your marriage, a betrayal, there's a death, there's a bankruptcy, cancer.
Yeah.
I've gone through cancer twice. There could be mental illness. There could be, a child of yours goes to jail, goes to prison, maybe just actually breaks your heart.
Any kind of crisis.
In our case, you all know that we are actually in the winter season in our marriage because of Matthew's death 19 months ago. And we have seen the reality of the benefit of all the years that we have banked toward this time, all the roots that we sent down deep into our love and into God, so that when the bottom fell out, when for us our son took his life and we faced the worst day of our lives, that we could survive. When Matthew was so ill, he was mentally ill since he was a little boy, and it got worse and worse. And because we're different, we approached him differently. And there were some times I thought we should handle him this way, and there were times that Rick thought that we should handle him this way, and we were often at polar opposites of how to respond. And I used to be afraid that if Matthew did take his life someday, as I was always worried he would, that we would approach grieving differently as well, and that somehow it would tear us apart. Not divorce. I mean, we settled that. It wasn't about divorce, but that somehow in our grieving and handling it differently, that it would pull us apart and our intimacy would be destroyed and things would never be the same again. But I can really tell you truthfully, honestly, that Rick and I are closer today than we were even 19 months ago. That this deep, tragic, dark, cold season in our lives and in our marriage we are closer than we've ever been. There's nobody on the planet that knows what it's like to be Matthew's parent besides Rick. Yeah. There's no one else that understands my grief more deeply than Rick. And so he's the person I want to be with, and vice versa. Nobody understands his grief the way that I do, and so it has drawn us closer.
Yeah, I would not have wanted to go through all this the last 19 months by myself. That's one of the benefits of marriage, is it takes you, you're gonna have crises in life whether you get married or not. I'd rather go through it with a support system, with somebody who you are happily incompatible with, but you agree, that our love is stronger. We don't fix the blame, we fix the problem. That's one of the key things to do. And one of the things that we decided, long before any of the crises in our marriage happened, was divorce was just not an option. We took our vow to God seriously. And when we got married and we signed that wedding license, we took a vow before God and said, divorce is not an option. We said, we closed the escape hatch, we locked it, we double locked it, and we threw away the key. And so that forced us to work things out. So people say, have you ever considered divorce in 39 years of marriage? No. Murder, yes, but divorce, no. No.
But I have to tell you, there have been, I can speak for myself, I'm not going to speak for Rick, but I can tell you that there have been some moments that we have had big enough arguments, big enough fights, big enough disagreements, said some things to each other that were terrible, that were cruel, that were mean, that were not kind, and sometimes the hurt and the wound from some of those things. There have been some moments in which I thought it would be so much easier. I'm done. I'm tired of forgiving. I don't want to forgive anymore. I don't want to keep doing this. Honestly, some moments when it's like, I don't even want to breathe the same air you're breathing.
Especially after garlic.
Or that hot sauce. But I'm just being really honest with you to tell you that is where we are. We're not trying to pretend like, we just occasionally in 39 years have had a few arguments. No, we've really struggled. There's been a lot of blood.
For our marriage.
There's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah. And you might think, well, why would I want to even go through it if it's that difficult? If it's really blood, sweat, and tears, partially because we are so different. Why would I want to even go through that? And I would just tell you, it's because it's worth it. It's because of the intimacy. We talk about the tunnel of chaos. Yeah. And Rick mentions this a lot. You'll probably want to go into this. But that tunnel of chaos, the couples who go through the tunnel of chaos, who stick with each other in that tunnel when the bottom has fallen out and you're really not sure that you can forgive again, that you can stay committed to each other, that maybe it'd just be easier to start over. But to go through that tunnel of chaos on the other side of the tunnel. Why go through it? Because on the other side is greater intimacy. Yeah. And that's what we have hung in there for, was for that greater intimacy.
What she's talking about is there's fake intimacy and there's real intimacy. When you're dating, it's all fake intimacy. Even in early marriage, it's fake intimacy because you don't know how much you can trust your spouse with your deepest fears. And so there's still part of you that you hold back, even in early marriage. That's fake intimacy. Everybody wants soul intimacy. That's real intimacy over here. How do you get from here to here? There's only one way. Go through the tunnel of conflict. Conflict is the essence. It's the only way you get to real intimacy. If you never have any conflict, you'll live at a shallow level. It means you're not dealing with the deepest differences in your marriage. And when you're in that tunnel, it's dark, it's black, it's loud. emotion and you go, I don't like this, and everything in you wants to back out, say, let's just put a top on it and go back to fake intimacy. But if you'll hang in there in that, eventually you run out of energy and you run out of words and hurt and pain and tears, and you come out on the other side in true intimacy.
Doesn't happen automatically. I mean, you have to choose, and you have to choose to not destroy each other in that tunnel.
And one of the things that you have to do in the crises of life that we've had to learn, and I say it's not like we've learned it, we have to keep learning it, and that is never judge feelings and never try to talk your spouse out of a feeling. A feeling is neither right nor wrong. A feeling is simply a feeling. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just a feeling. Why is it when somebody else has a feeling that you don't have, you feel duty bound to talk them out of it? That's just dumb. Just because you don't feel it doesn't mean somebody else does. And you don't need to convince them that it's a wrong feeling. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just a feeling.
There's one other thing I want to say as we close. For those of you in your, a lot of you are in your 20s or early 30s or maybe younger than that, we've noticed that maybe you're afraid. We've talked to a lot of people in their 20s and 30s, and they're actually afraid to get married. Terrified. Yeah. Maybe you've seen your own family fall apart, maybe lots of people that you know that said that they were going to love each other for the rest of their lives and they didn't, and you're worried that you don't have what it takes to last in a marriage 60, 75 years. What if you fail? What if it falls apart? What if you make all these promises and then you can't keep them? And you just get scared to jump in, scared to actually commit in a relationship. And we want to tell you, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Marriage is hard work, but marriage is the greatest picture, as Rick has already shared, of God's love for us. We have the opportunity, not only for ourselves, but to a watching world who our marriages can give the picture to them of this is what it's like for Christ to love his church and that profound spiritual nature of the relationship. Don't deprive the world and yourself of marriage because you're afraid. You have a church that cares about you. You have a church that will support you. You have a church that will pray for you. So you can be absolutely certain that we are going to pray for you in your relationships and in your marriages. And we ask that you pray for us because we are two imperfect people who need your prayers. But I mostly just wanted to say just that little, don't be afraid. Marriage is worth the effort, and it is the best thing. I'm glad. I can say it in the last service. I was afraid if I said it in all the other services, I'd cry too much, but I can say it in this one. I'm not the same person that I was. Being with you has changed me into a much better person than I would have ever been on my own. And through the rough times, through the hard times, and there have been plenty of those, and there's been sadness, so much sadness in this last year. But I'm grateful that God has used you to change me. I don't know that I would have liked the person that I was. You have made me a better person, and I love you so much.
Well, and when I was teaching that point about the number one tool God uses in your life to make you like Jesus is your spouse, there was a big picture in my mind because I knew who it was in my life. Because let me just talk to each of you as a different group. Some of you grew up in homes and the marriage didn't last. And it brought a lot of pain to you, and I'm sorry. You make the decision that you're going to break the cycle, that you're going to start a new legacy for your family name, that you are going to make it, and that your children are going to make it, because divorce is not going to be an option for you. Maybe you were in a marriage and it failed. You know what? We love you. We're grateful for you. There's grace in this place. And what matters is not where you've been. What matters is the direction of your feet right now. If you are not married, I want to ask you to make a commitment that when I marry, it's for life. It's not as long as we both shall love. It's not until it gets hard. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to walk out of this marriage or how many times Kay wanted to walk out of this marriage. And I'm so glad we didn't. Because when you're in that pain, all you can think about is, I am in so much pain right now, and you have no idea how many other people it's going to affect. If Kay and I had separated in those early years of marriage and we just said, this isn't worth it, it's just too much work, it's too hard, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. There would be no Saddleback Church. There would be no 40,000 people baptized who found Christ in this church. There would be no purpose-driven life. There would be no peace plan. The one simple decision that she or I could have made could have affected literally millions of other lives. You don't know how your decision will affect somebody else. So it's not about you. You got to think about your commitments. And I would say, if you're not married, say, I'm going to make a commitment. I don't care how bad it gets. It's not an option. We're going to work it. We're going to work through if it kills us. It nearly did us several times. But I'm so glad. I will tell you this. If you're in marriage, make a commitment to stay in that marriage. It really is worth it. The joy that comes from a long-term relationship, the joy of growing old with somebody that you know, now I'm going to cry, deeply, perfectly, imperfectly, but intimately, the strength that it gives you. I have been able to handle enormous amounts of stress because I was married to this woman. And what she gave to me gave me the ability to juggle 22 balls at the same time and accomplish an enormous amount of things in my life because we did it as partners, as a team.